You're online.
Thank you.
Please start.
Hi, everybody. Very great to hear you there, guys. Thanks for joining us. This is our online blockchain economic forum, which is 10 times greater than ever before. We have sounds like 20,000 views each 24 hours. It's a great place to share insights to help startups and investors to adopt to the new reality. Current times, they put on stop some of the economies, and Goldman Sachs predicts minus 7.5% of GDP decline for the US in 2020. There are other estimations which are about 20 to 30%. The length of current times is a big mystery. There are some of the reports that Sweden is approaching herd immunity, which can result in faster economic activity recovery. There are some reports stating that in New York, there could be something like 20% infected, which means that herd immunity is also nearby. But the majority of reports is that the percentage of infected is still a few percentage, not 20, not 30%. This means that quarantine could last for many months, maybe even years. And this could really change the way people communicate and work. They're moving online. And our discussion is about adoption to this reality, is about the adoption to short-term shocks and long-term business models which can grow in this economy, and fundraise to test them to scale. Guys, I suggest we share insights, what we see around, what kind of success cases we observe, and especially about fundraising. What kind of funds are investing, why they invest, or what kind of new types of investors are coming. We have a very great panel today, and I suggest you guys to make this organic flow discussion. So let's start from Gary Sam. What is your view on the situation and opportunities for fundraising? And then, guys, you jump in and develop the discussion further. And also shortly introduce yourself. Gary?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and because now I'm not in the European or American time, I'm in Asia time. So this is actually about time to get to sleep. So, but I will stay for another hour for that. I think from my view that for the recent pandemic, in fact, as regards from the activities of the group, we see there are a few opportunities around, and we are also approached by a few pitching bodies, for the projects. I think first of all, I think for the pandemic that I think especially we are very concerned about the US, and we have set aside millions of dollars to actually help the needies, and we try to block some quantities of the metal supply for some big countries and also the third world. Of course, this is something that's non-commercial, but it is also something that we are recently doing for the humanitarian program, and we are bidding out millions US dollars philanthropy for that. In fact, in terms of the projects, as I review about the list of the questions that you've put forward, what are some of the opportunities in the pandemic and also the fundraising? I think I see there are three areas. I think those projects that can actually bridge the social distance in terms of the technology in different application in different sectors. be it like banking finance, be it like manufacturing, production, be it like logistics or other service industries, and also the medical field. We are actually approached by actually one party that have the technology that try to bridge the social distance, and this is in the medical field. So from my view, the technology that can bridge the social distance is one key area of opportunity. And secondly, with the massive quantitative easing around the world in different countries, even like the Federal Reserve buying a lot of debts in terms of multi-trillion dollars of the debts in the next couple of years. From my view, with the incredible QE, we urgently need a universal currency that is based on the blockchain technology. I'm not saying one currency. I'm not following the view of Libra's suck. But the point is that we really need one internationally recognized blockchain-driven currency. Maybe one or maybe a few. So what I'm saying is that, and the blockchain-driven currency should be based on the gold standard. It's not hollow underneath. It is not just like the securities or asset underneath, but we need the gold standard. So this is the second theme of the opportunity that we see a lot of investors that we can look into, the gold standard type of cryptocurrency that is applicable for the world. So this is the second point. The third point, last but not least, that I want to mention is about the distressed asset and also the distressed companies. In fact, over the last 2 months in Asia, we are in the process of two mergers. One is with a listed company, and one is for a private company. And we are also looking into a lot of distressed assets in terms of, in particular, the property. Be it in Hong Kong or Singapore or New York or London. And so the third theme that I want to share is about the distressed asset and also the distressed company. And in terms of distressed company, I'm not just saying those companies that are actually into the distressed status. Those companies, if they are a public company, if they are really below the par and it's good for acquisition, and also for private company, they're really, in terms of for the banking institutions, like price to book, maybe in the range of 0.5 to 1.0. In fact, we are doing a merger of a banking institution that is at a price to book that is just 0.75. So that is something, and of course they are running a very good business model for that. And so that's why distressed assets and distressed companies in different sectors. So this is the three areas that I want to briefly share for the panelists and also judges. And also I will also try to give some advice to some of the pitching projects later on. Okay, so I stop here for the moment. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
By the way, how your business is going on?
How? I mentioned about social distance. In fact, it's quite a challenge for us with exposure in Europe, Americas, Middle East, Asia, Australia, etc. For us, of course, now I was kept in Hong Kong for the last couple of weeks. But the key is that of course, for us in terms of business, I think we are running as usual, but we have changed our paradigm. Actually, we are living with a new paradigm of social distant paradigm. We're living with a new lifestyle. So it's like we have to wear the mask. Although now, as of now, at home, I do not wear the mask.
So you will discuss your portfolio companies. Okay, let's guys move on. Who wants to it? It's a very great point about distressed assets, and very interesting to know what is the discount for real estate and for businesses. And is there what is the way to buy these distressed assets? Is there startups helping to find transborder transactions to buy distressed assets and so on? So this could be this type of ideas and insights shared with our audience which can give a birth to new startups and business models. Guys, please continue in this way. Who wants to be next?
Okay. I'll be brief on the distressed assets thing. I think timing is everything. So, there's several different audiences on here. So I think if I'm a startup right now, all this stuff is interesting, but not important, because what's important is, can I feed myself and can I keep building whatever I'm building? And through that lens, where are you going to find funding? There's a lot of pragmatic realities that I think you have to look at. One is you might be able to find funding because you've already done a lot of the work and you have a working product that is gaining a little bit of traction, solves a real problem that is even more relevant post-COVID-19 than before. And maybe you can find, whether it's family offices or private equity or things like that are outside, or maybe even a VC, but probably, family offices or people that are sitting on piles of cash that may already have their positions figured out. Maybe their exposure to the markets is less, and they're trying to figure out what is on the other side of this narrative. And you need to find investors that have, I don't want to say patience, but that are already sorted out on their current portfolio mix as it relates to what could or could not happen with the markets. And now what they're looking at is that allocation of capital that is for high risk, is for next generation, longer hold things. And you want to get in front of them. But I think you don't want to get in front of them until you're absolutely certain that your product solves a problem that's going to be relevant or even needed beyond, this initial crisis, and that it may be amplified. So I think if that's the case, then you should pursue, funding in your current thing. If not, I would figure out rapidly how to get customers either selling some derivative of that or something totally different. Maybe it's, you've got to fire up another skill that you guys can do, even if it's not core to your technology, and find a way to solve an intermediate need that actually will pay you. You've seen this with larger companies that are retooling perfume lines to make, N95 masks as an example. It's not just something startups should do. So where do you get funding? You get funding from wherever there's money, right? And if money's going to move for some need and you can fill that need, I think you should consider it, because you have to find a way to stay alive, and at the same time capitalize on the time period that a lot of other things aren't working and a lot of things aren't distracting you, and you can use your downtime to build your core offering for when this is all smoothed out a little bit more. So those are the startup views. As far as distressed assets, I think we're not anywhere near finding the bottom. I believe that distressed assets will be a big roll up. There'll be a massive consolidation. I don't think anybody thinks that's super genius of an analysis, but I think it's more about understanding maybe the time horizons. It's really hard to compare this to any other crisis. Certainly we can look back 100 years and see the timeline of 1929 and 1935 and kind of get a sense of what might happen. I think some of that's relevant, but we live in a much more connected world this time. We can get distracted by things like hyperinflation in the US dollar and all this stuff. I think we're going to see as big of a risk of debt deflation in the near term than we will hyperinflation, just because the demand for US dollars in the current system is so high, especially offshore. So, we might be 3 to 5 years out from the big part of this. And we could see a massive roar in the markets, which again, if you're a startup and you're dealing with people, maybe the next leg up, if there is a leg up, is a good time to try and close on some capital, because people think it's over and they want to believe that it's over, and you can get some rainy day funds stored away. So those are my thoughts. I think, if I'm an investor right now, I'm thinking beyond this narrative, and I'm just focused on what industries are going to benefit from this, what are never going to be the same, and is there some core technology I already have or that I can get a big piece of that, that is likely going to be needed in a world where we're much more dependent on bandwidth on a global basis. We're much more dependent on and maybe available to have quality curriculum in our education at scale, because now we don't need to have a brick and mortar building to deliver the best courses to billions of kids and some percentage of those kids are never going to go back to a brick and mortar facility, or maybe never even had an option. and the other reality is that some of those kids never even had the option, right? They lived in
disagree.
So anyway, I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. So those are my 2 things.
Do you want to comment on something while laughing? You recall the last day joke, right? Darren, what's your bet? What's your view? Guys, I suggest to get deeper into business models and or decision-making process for investors, how they decide to invest, and or maybe to new type of investors. Who are they? And what?
Let's talk about business models. I think I have a good example. I invested this month in the midst of the crisis into a blockchain company here. I'm out of Berlin, and I mean, of course, the question is why right now in the midst of the crisis I invested in this firm. This firm is called ZK Systems, and it's a company that offers to industrial manufacturers a completely new kind of business model. The idea is to offer equipment as a service for leading industrial manufacturers. So imagine you're a company that, for example, builds power tools or compressors or generators, whatever, and this company really makes it possible that there are like equipment as a service, so you pay per use of concrete usage of these kind of systems. So when you are an industrial manufacturer, then this offers you a completely new way of collaborating with your clients. And I think these are the kind of models that right now are really have the pivotal moment in the industry, because I feel right now every company is thinking how they can digitize even the most traditional companies like the industrial manufacturers and many other thinking about what can I do? My people now working from home. There are new business models for more efficiency, effectiveness, etc. And when we look at our portfolio, and I'm invested in around 10 venture capital firms around the world, so I see a lot of business models, a lot of different kind of trends, but these are the companies that are still getting good deals, good funding, because they're really solving a problem, and they are really are at these critical moments really having a kind of beneficial approach and really helping the traditional companies, enterprises to really move forward. And if the entire crisis shows us one thing, is that the entire digitization of the industry really kind of accelerates, and things that maybe happened in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years happen right now in this moment. People are super open and interested to learn about new business models, how they can digitize their companies, about new solutions. I really think that blockchain technology plays a mission critical role for a lot of companies. And I think ZK Systems that I now invested in personally has really, it's really a great example. And with my other company, Piabo, I think we help to explain this new technology, because this is the other side of the game, right? I mean, right now there are so many new situations that many founders and investors never faced before, who thought that we are 2 or 3 months ago facing a global epidemic. So there are a lot of internal communication, a lot of investor relations, a lot of communicating, especially of new business models. And as now everything moves into the digital world, we don't have the opportunity to meet at conferences, at meetups, at dinners, etc. So it's even more important to have clear messages and really communicate properly. So I think here both things come together. On the one hand, when we're talking about fundraising in the epidemic, having a new kind of approach when it comes to investor relations and communicating our values, our products, our services, and also the needs of these kind of things, and how we can help and solve these problems with the technologies. On the other hand, really focusing on the things that matter right now. And I think it also washes out a lot of bullshit and companies and that came up and just had whatever fancy PowerPoint presentation, but nothing really behind it. And now is the time for really companies that changing how companies operate and work and really make a difference and offering concrete solutions for problems that all the enterprises and Mittelstand companies facing right now.
Thanks. By the way, as I understand, you are a limited partner in some of the funds, and probably they try to make capital calls, and limited partners do not answer to these calls. So venture funds do not have much cash to invest, and some funds that have cash, they're focusing on something like medicine or telemedicine and so on, which is very definitely growing at the moment. And what about the new type of investors, those who understand the client pains, they understand the technology, but they were not able to reach great startups, because the great startups, they went into angel networks, VC networks, and they are under radar for those who are outside of these introduction networks. And today, these professionals or high net worth individuals, they can potentially reach these startups, because the startups can't go the old way, and they are just looking for new ways. What kind of message would you formulate for both this new type of investors that, hey guys, now you can find great startups, and to these great startups, hey guys, there are new type of investors, these top managers, high net worth individuals, understand this particular client pains and technology, so they can we can match you together here, by the way, on VCTV. What would be your message?
I think first of all, maybe to add one last thing to it. I think when it comes to investors, it doesn't matter if it's a traditional VC fund, is it a new, what you call a new investor or business angel network, etc. At the end of the day, the question that every founder has to ask themselves is, the dollar that I get from the investor actually worth $2, right? And I mean, money is still, for good companies, great teams, and good numbers, you still get this. The question is, can the investors give you the access to the network to grow faster? Do they have the knowledge that helps you accelerate your business, etc.? I mean, still money is there in the market in the one way or the other. The question is, will these investors help you to really bring your company forward, grow faster? Do they have the right access, the right network, the right industry knowledge, the right skill set that you need as a company?
Okay, thank you. Tess, I think you tried to add something and we interrupted, sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. No, it's great. It's a great panel. Thank you. So I'm Tess. I'm the founder of Tess Ventures. So I deploy capital directly with myself and my team. My background is a serial entrepreneur that I have started my own companies, and some of them actually I have brought it all the way to an acquisition. So that's why I want to pay it forward by starting my own VC fund to invest in early stage to other startups. And I know, LA Token, Valentine, Tilo, the whole team has done a great job because we've all known each other for the last, 3 years. And my belief is blockchain technology still is the frontier tech that will still be very relevant no matter what cycle in the market we are in. And I personally, myself, very important 3 things. One, we are still investing. And the reason why is last year already seen the high valuation was due for a correction. So I have already been selectively investing into companies that I feel actually had real technology, real product, and also be able to try to capture the value in the investing cycle where I feel as an investor, the upside is still very good. However, directly being able to add extreme value to the startup. An example of that is why I say I am still investing. Myself and my circle of high net worth and ultra high net worth friends and contacts combined with family offices is They are the ones that I personally have went to school with here in Silicon Valley, at Stanford, or at other areas that we've had trust in. So they don't have the traditional access as the traditional VCs to the point that you were making earlier. But what they do have is the trust in specific individuals who many times are advisors to startups that can help them do the due diligence, especially if they themselves are investing. So my personal motto at Test Venture is I would help a company and I would do due diligence and help them increase their value by being an advisor first. Then I would invest my own money and introduce them to a circle of other investors. So an example of that is a blockchain technology company that they just closed their seed round in the last 2 months. Basically, the company is called Login ID. And the reason why, if their fundamental technology, no matter what cycle investors are investing, the seed round was, over 3 million. And they were introduced by myself and some other great advisors, largely to raise this capital pool. So traditional investors didn't have a chance to, see this in the sense that the traditional VC funds here in Silicon Valley. So the reason is exactly that the investors they wanted was strategic investors. The company focuses on, I would say, remote control thesis, which is biometrics. They're able to allow, log in so that we can reimagine the world without password, without touching anything. So it's all with biometrics. That itself, authentication, is a super needed area. And even before coronavirus, it was one of the hottest sector. So that's why with great companies, they will always have investment. They also do compliance tech, which is regulation tech. And they use the fundamental, blockchain decentralization, proprietary technology to do that. They also, focus on identity, which because the world is regulated now with GDPR, CCPA. So every company that has user data, they are going to be fined if they don't handle the data properly, because that comes out from the Facebook, analytics, Cambridge Analytics situation where they were fined 5 billion. So the right companies that are in the right space will be able to raise funds no matter what. It is more challenging, that is for sure. So that's why, to my next point, finding the best and the right advisors, make sure you mobilize them to tap their network so that they can tell you who else right now has the funding that can be strategic and can actually invest. Because you will see a lot of investors that say they have investment, but they're actually not deploying capital right now because they want to be safe. So they may waste founders and startups' time if they actually are not actually there in a position to invest. So that's why, I myself want to be very thoughtful to the companies I am, in my portfolio, and that other companies that I'm looking at. So for example, going back to Login ID's case, I introduced the lead investor to them, and they are a strategic investor that traditionally don't just invest in companies. They themselves have a technology that combined with Login ID's technology, actually easily the strategic investor gets them users and also, pre-IPO companies to sign up to be users. So easily there's an access of a pipeline of customers. So what this does, it allows the startup to be able to quickly ramp up with, as using least resources, which is, not having a stream runway where there's burn rate that consistently happens, but quickly be able to tap into users and then quickly, be able to tap into revenue. So that is very important. Bringing in advisors that actually can tap into capital and also tap into, helping you build that go-to-market strategy with, concrete numbers. So the reason why I say advisors are important is the last quarter, just this last quarter, 21 billion of VC money was raised. So there is already at least, 21 billion of fresh funds that actually is being invested into the market. But they will definitely have a very rigorous, a much tighter due diligence process. They will second definitely have a more different approach than they have approached in the past. And they are going to be definitely focus on the valuation. So they'll be very price sensitive. So to the point, definitely distressed assets are great, but as a venture capitalist, typically they're used to the model of high risk, high gain, and being, very supportive to the founders if they are early stage investors right from the beginning. So that's why I myself, believe that, if you do know which investors that have the money to deploy focused on your sector of the business that you are, targeting, I think that will absolutely be able to, truly where it be a win-win situation. So that's why I firmly believe that, in my case, companies such as Login ID, they are positioned also to help crypto exchanges with their compliance, because they have the final certification, which the whole world will be also needing to be part of to, really take their next, technology or their own company, or if they're a bank and, to the next level. So that's why, regulation tech, fintech are all still very relevant areas that no matter what cycle of the industry, those are technology areas that, are very important. So investors should just focus on, timeless technology that is needed in the world, no matter, what kind of situation we are in.
Thank you.
So I want to add to Tess' point also. I think the idea behind having that great group of advisors critical for startups, especially at this time. I think the idea is no longer just a matter of trying to find that high net worth individuals or LPs trying to, where they usually don't have money. I mean, they don't know to provide that bridge. You still need a strong advisory board for you to kind of not looking at just a capital raising, but also like what are the business strategies, the go-to-market strategies, and all that, kind of just build it up as your network in order to, before you become a full-blown company, you have to have a strong advisory board, have a strong board, and all that. So that's really resonate with Tess' message. Second, I think we also need to, for startups, I think it is important for them to focus on the long-term value proposition, as opposed to creating a kind of one-off ideas that just say we try to create a production line for better PPE equipment production or anything like that. Those are good. But if this is not your long-term value proposition, you will get lost once this pandemic is over. So just a little bit background about ourselves. My name is Darwin Ling. I run a venture fund focused on early stage AI companies. We focus on 3 sectors: fintech, healthcare, and B2B SaaS, software as a services. So these are the time where AI tends to be a buzzword a couple years back, but now it's kind of like maybe dropping just because of declining, just because there's so many kind of like noises that are coming around. So what we focus on is really on focusing on applying AI towards a very critical problems that are faced across these industries that we mentioned. So we focus on healthcare. So these are the great example where AI can be a really great applications to whether it's a drug discovery, whether it's a medical imaging, precision medicine, and all that. So part of our pitch for some of these companies that talk to us is that a lot of our portfolio companies, they try to do actually one-off, pivot, if you will. They try to say we have now potentially doing some studies for some of the vaccine development and all that. So we have a strong connection with the industries. We see a lot of these deals coming in, and then a lot of them is actually, to us, is a really one-off deal that we felt like it's not really sustainable. So that's actually something where, as a advice to some of the startups, still focus on your core messages, just not, you're just trying to figure out, where do I get the next, source of revenue or next source of capital. Still focus on that. I think this will serve you well in the longer term.
I think the if Valentin, if I may just kind of make a point here, this is Eli Ansari with Bowser Securities. We're a Fundraising registered broker dealers and investors. We have offices in San Francisco, LA, London, Beijing, and New York. So we're investing in and backing companies in multiple sectors. But the reason why I wanted to kind of quickly jump in is, we're working on deals. We're closing deals almost, almost on a weekly basis at the firm level. We look at it as a reallocation of assets. So from the blockchain perspective, blockchain being into fintech, healthcare, from therapeutics to supply chain, to real estate, to cannabis, entertainment, we've been involved in pretty much all aspects of the industry is in the adoption of blockchain, but investors are still investing. It's just really, how do you fit in the new paradigm? And you have to really show revenues and you have to show traction. One of our newest companies is a telemedicine company, quite early stage company, but utilizing blockchain. They've been getting calls from FEMA, from pretty much a lot of the agencies, and the demand is just very impressive. So investors are still investing. It's just really, how do you fit in this new paradigm? So that's what really, as a startup, you need to focus on and deliver revenues.
That's great. If I might jump in, Ashton Addison here, broadcaster on Reuters Insider and Investment Pitch, and host of the Crypto Coin Show on YouTube. Just to briefly pretense, I think that there was some great insights in terms of which industries we're going to be seeing coming out of this crisis and during the crisis are going to be growing. In terms of the blockchain industry, I think that now is the time more than ever. We've closed that gap where it seemed like far out to have a digital currency in use in the mainstream throughout North America, but now that they're starting to ban cash because of contamination reasons, and they're looking for more control over money moving around, digital currency is being warmed up to the general public very quickly. In terms of industries inside of the blockchain industry that I'm looking at from an investment front, service providers and ancillary services that are going to help grow the industry are needed for adoption before decentralized applications become popular. Etherscan, unstoppable domains, or human readable addresses are helping people get into the blockchain industry before they're actually using applications. As Tess mentioned, compliance and regulation in exchanges and service providers will become very popular as more service providers will be popping up, and there will be need for more regulations as more people come into the industry. Decentralized finance is great, but not flawless right now. I don't know if any of the speakers saw, but yesterday there was a decentralized finance application which was drained. $25 million was siphoned out of their decentralized smart contract from DeForce was the name of the DeFi company. So that just shows that there's a huge need for cybersecurity, and Gary touched on communication tools, and that reminded me of the privacy and as well security. It seems more than ever right now, hackers and manipulators are taking advantage of people in these times of crisis, and there's a lot of new scams that are popping up for people that are already, they've already been pushed down by the crisis here, and they're looking for new ways to make money, yet they're being duped by criminals on the internet. And I think cybersecurity moving forward, especially as more people that are not technically savvy are coming on to use Zoom to do their businesses online, to start maybe using digital currency to transfer around. It's very common. Everybody's getting emails every day in their inbox that are phishing emails, scamming emails, and there's a lot of opportunities for business solutions to come in and solve those problems. In terms of raising capital right now for startups, it obviously is going to be tougher in terms of you won't see the valuation potentially that you had at the top of the bull market, in 2019 when it seemed easier to raise capital. But that doesn't mean that they should give up. They should definitely just start working harder. And I think the most important thing to keep in mind for startups is the cash flow. Do they have cash flow to last multiple years? what will their cash flow look like during the crisis and as well as out of the crisis? Is this a temporary business that, for example, mask manufacturers, sure, they have great revenues now, but that's not something that may be as popular coming out of the crisis, right? Is it also an essential need of the economy, or is it more of an entertainment business? I run a blockchain event ticketing startup, Event Chain. We're about 3 years old now in our growth stage, and we took a massive hit as all events have been canceled and postponed. So in that sense, if we had something that was more essential for the needs of the economy and would flourish in a recession or in the start of a new bull run, that we wouldn't have been affected as much. But I do have a diversification into other businesses. And we've also made the pivot to virtual events and online events and VR events, and esports has been very hot. And we've seen those trends coming up as more digital events are coming to the rise. And as Valentin mentioned, it is hard to try and find startups that are unicorns. Of course, it's going to be hard to find them. But a lot of the unicorns that we see today, Uber and Spotify, all of those companies came out of the last crisis, the 2008-2009 crisis. So there are startups that will become unicorns that are looking for fundraising right now. It's just a matter of picking through those weeds, and investors just need to understand that the power rule normally applies, where 90% of those investments or 95% are not going to become unicorns, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be out looking for good opportunities. And because of this potential need for cash in dire times, there may be able to get better valuations for those investors. And I would say for startups, raise capital for 2 years, 3 years, a little bit more than you need, and then try and re-raise at a bit of a higher valuation, hoping that the next bull cycle starting, but expect for investors that the investment horizon will be 5 to 10 years. It's not like you're going to cash out next year unless this is a very short-term play during the crisis. So just keep looking.
Thank you, Ashton. Carl, do you have a few words before we move into a pitching session, please?
I do. Hi, everybody. My name is Carl Hasselbarth. I have my own law and tax practice that I operate out of Albany, New York. And I'd like to talk about opportunities in distressed investing briefly, as it came up earlier in the conference. One of my practice areas is bankruptcy law, and I'm an identifiable player in the bankruptcy courts in the U.S. And I think that can be potentially a great opportunity to look for opportunities to buy assets that need to be liquidated out of bankruptcy estates. So if anybody would like to discuss opportunities for deploying capital in the distressed investing field, especially through bankruptcy court, please find me on LinkedIn. In addition to being a lawyer, I'm a chartered financial analyst, and I've also worked in the investment advisory space. So I am interested in potentially finding a way to pivot into combining my areas of expertise and investing by purchasing assets out of bankruptcies.
Great. Thank you. Eli?
Yes.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. So I think we are approaching the pitch competition. Thanks a lot, guys. And I'm very happy to see you. Look forward for our next panels. You are welcome to join these panels. You can host your own panel. Just let Lena know. Lena, we are forwarding the screen to you, please.
Thank you, Valentin. Dear judges, please open the Google evaluation forms that I've sent you. We are starting our pitch competition, and our first project will be Kevin Alexander Paul Kirchman, CEO at World Free Software Corporation. Kevin, we can see your pitch deck, so you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead. Kevin, I think you shall unmute yourself.
Oh. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, super. Right, so I feel like a bit of an orchestra conductor pulling in all the different music from all those great comments. So I'm discussing the freemark, which is a new digital currency. I'm Kevin Kirchman, the CEO. My background, I'm a second-generation software entrepreneur and a sixth-generation entrepreneur. I built a company an AI company. We developed natural language reasoning technology used by companies like Baxter Healthcare and Litton Aerospace. And we were subject to an acquisition offer by a G200 firm we didn't sell. So we pivoted back into the fintech space where my father's firm was. And the free market is a new digital currency the function is to preserve the purchasing power of people's money, which is a really interesting space right now with the massive QE, as Darwin has mentioned. The other thing that we're doing is micro payments. Okay, so this is the purpose of the free market. The advantages we have are we can deliver a venture scale return on investment potential, which is interesting for a stable coin. If a currency maintains its value, then how do you make money in the current crypto paradigm? So we have a solution to that dilemma. And fundamentally, a stable coin that we have is pegged to a basket of 20 commodities, connecting the value of the money to the physical world, the basis of all goods and or most goods. And finally, we think we can attain a substantial revenue before too much more tech development. Okay, this explains how people can make money with the earliest investors with the free market. There's a patent pending on this paradigm. Basically, it shows if we attain on the right side of the graph $2.5 billion in money supply, then the earliest investors will get about 15 times their money. So this is a sustainable reward function that has a maximum 6% payout, but we expect it to be about half that because most people don't keep their money until the end, sort of thing. And then this scales out, which is really interesting. I can talk about it later. Okay, so this is just an example for an investment of 300,000, which we're looking for right now. It's a second 300,000. You could get a 14 times return on your money with a $2.5 billion money supply. You get two sources of returns. One is the free mark, and the second is the world free shares. And again, we have a valuable technology called natural language reasoning that facilitates rational dialogue with computers. I developed a broad-based new epistemological theory after leaving Cornell grad school, new theory of deduction, new theory of concepts, new lexicological theory, new theory of validation, et cetera. And it allowed us to reason from natural language, the first technology to deliver direct answers to from live unstructured text. All right, so this shows that what we're trying to accomplish with a stable currency is possible. Using coffee as an example for a price over a couple hundred years, showing the wealth basically and the early American society was preserved for 5 generations. And then after the Fed, how we have a massive erosion of wealth. This also shows how the fiat currencies are really not stable at all. Now we have here the euro versus the US dollar, the two most stable currencies. You have 7% in 1 month volatility and 2% in a day sometimes. This is stunting international transactions by introducing risk in global business. That's a real problem, and we have a solution to this. Okay, this is the basis of our stability. These are the commodities that we peg to. We have a liquidity fund to be the market maker to maintain the peg. And this is a competitive analysis. Again, a currency like Tether pegged to the US dollar, there's nothing behind the US dollar. So you're basically pegging to nothing. And this US dollar isn't stable in any case. This is our rollout plan. Our premier area is an online purchases, peer-to-peer buying and selling, and later investing. And there are 3 million self-published books, 150 million YouTube video makers, and we use micropayments for that. I have 3 books coming out very short, or 2 of them out right now, and another one coming out very shortly. And we're going to basically be using our tools to market my books. So we have to learn how to make these things sell. And once we've done that, then we'll have people that we can use these tools for our clients in all businesses and goods and services. We have a great team. Paul is a Western Australian venture capitalist. Teo is a very gifted crypto guy, and all of our other team members are really experienced and of real value to everything. There's a picture of our app. There's the commodities, our pricing, how that works, and the different parts of that. And this is basically our timeline. We plan to very shortly, we can deliver this functionality. Ours are financials. These are our partners, major partners. And I want to just end with this last graph. This is really, if we, this is the Bitcoin way over here on the left. if we don't cross this chasm pretty soon, then the idea of a cryptocurrency could lose its attractiveness. A lot of people want to use them, but if we don't figure out what is the reason and how to get across this chasm, then we're going to miss an opportunity. And I think the reason is is really the stability factor, and that the volatility of cryptos is stunting the crypto economy by introducing risk in transactions that causes people not to want to buy and sell when they could be buying. They want to hold when they could be buying. The sellers don't want to accept without increasing prices. So those are the things that are causing a slowdown in the market. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Our next participant is Jonathan Reyes Gomez, blockchain advisor and international real estate business partner at MVC. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
We can see you, we can hear you, so please go ahead.
Perfect. So we are Metro Bacesa, the biggest real estate developer in Spain. We have about 100 years of history. We are mainly focused in primary cities, top touristic areas. And actually, just as a highlight, today we are working in parallel with over 100 new developments. We have great banking behind, so for our shares, we are in the stock. And actually, great news from March this year is that Carlos Slim, one of the richest person, a great investor, came up with increasing his shares in our company. So actually, if we take a look in the traditional way of real estate, we come to the point that there is a space where multiple layers from realtors, from advisors, from real estate commissioners, there are many intermediaries that not necessarily are added value. Apart from that, there is a full analog process and lack of transparency since the beginning until the new development is constructed. So from the innovation strategy department from Metro Bacesa, we realized that blockchain must be the driven success path to follow in order to make a process digitalized, make a cost and time savings, have a better customer relation improvements, and a new channel to drive our business. Metro Bacesa has developed a platform together with Grant Thornton for the sale and management of the real estate assets based in blockchain. So actually, this is a worldwide project since we want to approach worldwide investors and actually mainly lead it to investment funds, family offices, and crowdfundings. So what we do is from one side, we put the new developments we are working on, or even the ones that have been already finished. From the other side, we try to reach directly the investors. We make a fast ALM and KYC, and actually everything together with this agreement is put into the blockchain. We actually are working with the hyperledger peso, and this is the how it's looking in terms of milestones, process definition, and the visibility directly to the investor. We define the process since the beginning. We put together full transparency, even including the data coming directly from the architectures and everything defined for this development. Autodesk, Amazon Web Services, Grant Thornton are behind even to guarantee the audited smart contracts. So actually the investor will receive his tokens in the wallet of their choice, and actually the contents, the attributes from those tokens will have everything from the process, from the agreement, how the real asset is looking for. So actually, if we take a look in the competition, we see that the commercial agents of those big companies that are making the commercial services are not interested at all, because this will remove their fees. If we take a look in the direct competitors, they are really far away from our position, and they are thinking of new startups. So therefore, we take a look on the new startups, and we have common factors in all of them. All of them are new, recent from 2018, 2019. They don't have real deep understanding of regulation, either the real estate business experience itself. And by the way, they are also a third party. So they are also looking for a fee. So actually, we try to look directly into the investor's point of view. We developed successfully a complete development into the blockchain last year. We passed into the crowdfunding. And we are now on the way to look for investors in a more global vision. So actually, the product I'm bringing today to you guys is an exclusive opportunity of a new development, which is 5 minutes from the coast. It's 100% finalized, so you can enjoy from today on if you buy a property. And actually, it has their own golf course. It is near to the biggest geoda. You can see in the right picture the size of a human being compared to the geoda. And actually, we are also taking care of the property management. In case that you are there just 1 month and everything will go into rental, we take care as well in the maintenance. So actually, the message would be, we put 50 properties to be tokenized. We ensure a fast anti-money laundering for the investors. And actually, right now, we cannot guarantee the return of investment really accurately because of the crisis. But what we do guarantee is for those investors that are buying, or in case in a total volume we reach 25 properties, we guarantee a 10% discount. And if we reach 10 millions for the 50 properties, we guarantee 15% discount. So actually, we have a special reservation for April that can start from 300 euros. And actually, you can send any request to me, gvre@metrovacesa.com, and I will be glad to answer. And actually, the last slide shows how many people are behind of this blockchain project. From one side, Grant Thornton, a company of over 50,000 people worldwide, and Carmen Chicharro Sanz, especially leading a big team in Metrovacesa, being the commercial marketing and innovation director. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And our next participant is Anthony Chung, founder and CEO at Tolocal. Hi, Anthony.
Hello.
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 Could you share your screen if you're ready?
Yeah, I share my screen, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, I'm Anthony Chung, CEO and founder of Tolocal. Thank you all for joining us here today by Be a Chance with Tolocal, Sustainability and Prosperity for All. Value creation by innovative banking. What we see nowadays is a world which is unsustainable and most of the people living in poverty. This is what we call symptoms. Let us go to the root cause. The root cause is our monetary system based on debt and inflation. Banks only need to keep a small part of the money in reserve and can create about 10 to 100 times as much new money for lending out. On one side, we have value creation with production and providing services. And on the other side, we have money creation, interest, transfer cost, creating money. As a result, inflation, as we all know. COVID-19, the world is telling us to do our business more local to local.
Sorry, Anthony, do you supposed to show slides?
Oh, you didn't see my slides?
No, we see you.
Oh.
Could you share your screen and we'll start once again?
Okay, you see my screen now?
Yes, we see it. So let's start over. You have five minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now thank you all for joining us. I already told you, be a change with Tolocal, sustainability and prosperity for all. Value creation by innovative banking. Now what we see nowadays is a world which is unsustainable and most of the people living in poverty. This is what we call symptoms. And the root cause is our monetary system based on debt and inflation. Banks need only a small part, have to keep only a small part of the money in reserve and can create about 10 to 100 times as much new money for lending out. We have on one side, we have value creation with production and providing services. And on the other side, we have value extraction by money creation, interest and transfer cost. Creating money has as a result inflation instead of value rise. And we have COVID-19. The world is telling us to do our business more local to local. The solution, the Bitcoin, we say a revolution, I think. And now we're going to take the cryptocurrencies into the next phase, to its full potential. We are building a two-local platform, ultra-fast blockchain, fully ERC 721 compatible, multi-currency wallet with a multi-currency wallet, a unique cashback system, a marketplace with connected companies, and a coin design for rising exchange rate. On our multi-currency wallet, with our own native coin in it, the normal cryptocurrencies, option to add other wallets, buy the two local coin, add two local for 1% discount. Later on, I tell you more about this. Sell two local coins in the app at the exchange, and a marketplace with connected companies. These are images of our current MVP 2.0. Our cashback system. Our unique cashback system works as follows. For every transfer done with the two local coin, 1% fee is paid. We sell the two local coin with 1% discount in the two local app to our users. When users buy the two local coins at the connected companies, they will get a cashback once a month with a calculated maximum, so the most needy benefit the most. Companies sell their two local coins at the exchange, and this is also possible in the app. Two local buys the two local coins at the exchange using a smart algorithm. This algorithm ensures a steady rising exchange rate. The coins are kept for 1 month to be sold to our users for a higher exchange rate. This profit goes to the cashback system and our operations. So two local doesn't profit from its users, but create value with its users. Coin design for a rising exchange rate. Tokens used for payments guarantees liquidity, and liquidity is needed for a rising exchange rate. We have a predetermined coin flow. We got a smart algorithm to push the price up, and more users, high demand, rising value. Our connected companies work with the Sustainable Development Goals guidelines from the United Nations and working local to local. Our market size is everybody above 18 years old, and we have 1.7 billion adults unbanked. We have already around about 4,000 communities having their own currency, so we invite them. We have a huge competition of bank, governments, Facebook, Apples, and other cryptocurrencies. Most of them using stable coins, stable to the dollar, so stable losing value, keeping the current problem alive, and no one having a unique cashback system. We're positioning ourselves very high in sustainability and value rise. If you see, for example, is the electric car, uses materials which are mined under bad conditions, and they will run out in the next decade if we keep using them like this. We've always also put the gold as the baseline, and we all know the dollar lost 97% of its value since 1913. Our business model, a free payment app. We deliver a free payment app, a free wallet, free bonus system, cashback, coin rising in value. We profit from transfer fee of 1%, profit from rising exchange rate, average revenue per user, and we have got targeted advertisement and market information. Marketing adoption we want to do with affiliate marketing. This is techniques already proven in the cryptocurrency world, so we're going to use them for the normal market. We are planning to launch end of the year. If we make it, I don't know, with the coronavirus situation. We we are looking for an investment of $1 million, and we give out a stake of 24% for it, with a 25% of two local tokens. We got a very diverse management team. Nice to mention Harry Donkers, PhD, scientist, and one of his book called Local Food for Global Future. Why invest now? Join the new era of cryptocurrencies by participating team-wise with a company that's stepping into banking. Only cryptocurrencies also used for regular payments have enough liquidity to have potential to rise in value. Be part of saving the people and the planet by achieving a sustainable and prosperous world. And pandemics as COVID-19 calls us dramatically to change our lives and our economy right now. And our way of living needs to be more local to local. Thank you and keep safe.
Thank you, Anthony. I would like to ask all the judges to please save your Google evaluation forms so I can get your scores. And let's start with Chris. Chris, could you please share your feedback for all the projects and our audience?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
You had to pick on me, huh? All right, I'll go first. So I submitted it, Elena. I hope you got it. It says that it went through before we...
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go in the same order. So freemark, my overall feedback, and again, take this for what it's worth, 5 minutes is always tough to communicate all the hard work you guys are doing. So what I wrote down here as my summary of thoughts was that your pitch made me curious, but not totally clear. So I think you did a good enough job to kind of hook me into wanting to learn more, go down the rabbit hole a little bit more. But I'm not really clear on exactly how you're going to achieve the things you're setting out, or what role. I don't know that I agree with your adoption curve slide in the sense of where we are in time. I think that I can make the argument both ways. So I don't think it's wrong in the sense of you shouldn't say it. I think that there's a lot of factors in play that could help you, even if they seem like they may hurt you. One of those being, will mass adoption come because of central bank digital currencies? That won't really solve the problem that you're talking about, but will be an attempt to solve it for their own needs, meaning governments. Will that actually be the catalyst versus the killer? I could make a case for that because, stimulus checks, for instance, are being an issue getting out to folks here in the States. And, and now it might take up to 5 months to get your $1,200 check that was part of the first approval. And, that's really not enough money to do anything anyway, whether you're a 90K a year family or not. And most people aren't. But 5 months is kind of like, found money in a jacket you haven't worn in a year. So again, would that be solved with a current crypto wallet or some kind of central bank digital currency? And I think in the future it will. And if that was the case, we have 170 million people who had to download a wallet for the first time, had to figure out how to accept it, and it was outside their normal banking system. That could actually accelerate adoption in a way that could serve better solutions like what you're working on. So again, curious, not clear. I like the team. That was my feedback. Top of the head. Metro Vicasa. The Grant Thornton thing's obviously the most interesting thing about what you've done. So that stood out to me. Again, just surface level, but I think that was interesting. It's a very crowded space. Sorry, I think my landscaper's going by. This is the problem with working from home. If you got background noise, that's what it is. But, I think that one stood out to me for that reason. It seems like the business model is primarily just a better version of property management and brokering deals and transactions. I don't know that the offer was too exciting, but I don't know that that's your fault. I think part of that is just I think 10 to 15% discounts are already priced into any real estate transaction out there right now. I think we're probably a couple of years away from a repricing of all commercial and residential, let alone development projects. So it's not that I question the value of land or the question of the business model. It's that I just think on a global basis, people that can actually afford to purchase properties or are looking for that kind of thing are going to be a little bit more patient for the next 2 years to figure out where the actual right price is. So I think that could be challenging. But overall, interesting and definitely congrats on the Grant Thornton relationship. Too local, again, not a lot of information to really go from. So take this, or leave it. I feel like you're in a space that's obviously needed. The market is the biggest market you can imagine. It's also the most crowded. And I didn't see anything that really stood out to me that let me believe you guys have any kind of unfair advantage to capitalizing on enough of that market share, given the low margins and given the amount of noise that'll be in that space, to really get where you need to go to have it be an investable return. That was my top of mind. Based on that presentation, again, doesn't mean it's not true that you do. It just means I didn't get it. So for what that's worth, I would focus in on the purchase level data item of your 4 or 5 contributions to margin, specifically because that is the one that is the most valuable as a data set. Is we are what we spend, and to be able to de-identify or to really use that unstructured data in a way that's secure, honors privacy, and helps companies using machine learning and AI make better pricing and supply chain decisions around demand in advance of their competitors. There are companies out of the Southeast Asia market like Quantium that have been doing AI and machine learning algorithms around unstructured data for several decades and have some big partnerships with Walmart and some others, but they don't have the end user point of sale piece, and someone's going to crack that. The biggest challenge I see in fintech and banks is that banks have all this data, but they don't have a way to do anything with it. They don't have a tool like yours. Maybe they could develop one. Maybe they should acquire it. Maybe they should partner. You can make all those cases. But fintechs don't have the data. So they don't have 10, 20 years of my purchase history that is unstructured that they could use as a starting point. And so this chasm of the legacy data that is there and that is rich and that can actually make your inputs better is in one bucket of the big banks. And then in the fintech world, you can go get the users, but you're in a bloody space with cost per click and affiliate margins and all these things that are really going to be a race to the bottom. So I would say find a strategic, whether that be a large bank or some kind of thing that can write the check and maybe acqui-hire you guys. But that's my 2 cents. And again, thanks for the quick pitch and thanks for all the effort, because it is the builders that are out there taking the risks that are going to change the world. And I acknowledge all 3 of you for that.
Thank you, Chris. And I'd like to invite Darwin Link to be the next one. Darwin, could you share your feedback?
Yeah, thanks, Elena. So I think I echo a lot of comments from Chris. So I think some kind of high-level comments first that apply to all the companies. So this is a critical time now. I think, right now, probably the investors are inundated. They're even more inundated with some of the pitch that came across. So it's really important for all the companies that have a really succinct and clear pitch message. So first of all, I think, my general comment is that when I look at these 3 companies, when it comes to mind is that the problem they are trying to solve is not very clear, or maybe actually it is clear enough, but there's actually immediately I have a lot of competitors that come along that will kind of say, so how are you different from, for example, the Too Local, how you do different from companies such as Abra, or, for free market, how are you different from Tether? I know I show that you show that, but that message is not very clear in terms of how you address a problem. So that's my first suggestion, is that somehow it's like you need to, in your pitch deck, front and center, put it out. This is the problem that you are solving. It's not about just trying to say you have a more longer term vision, is that you want to enhance sustainability. You have to say, right now, you have to say the banking transaction system is broken, for example. This is how you're going to fix it. And this is a particular technology and all that. So that should be the flow. So that's my general comment. Again, not to be too harsh for everybody. I think everybody probably have a lot more information or insights. But again, this is more like a communication tactics that we all need to pay attention to now. So number one, for the free market, again, immediately, my idea that it's another stable coin, to me, it's already been done. There's a lot of these technologies or coins that are out there. So the question is, how are you different? I understand that you have actually tried to use AI as your differentiating kind of like competitive advantage. So if you think this is actually your pitch, I would say make it front and center again. You're better because you have this AI technologies that are driving the change. And what an investor want to see is really show me some data that proven that this is actually working. I know that you're trying to show some of the other stable coin, but can you show your coin and how you're going to better than say the Tether of the world, the stable coin of the world, the Libra of the world? Kind of mentioned the 2 or 3 bullet points. That's because of AI, with all this data that we have access to, created this differences. And I think that might be a more interesting pitch, as opposed to say, your return is going to be, 10%, 20%, because you're pitching an investment rather than a sort of like a transformative technology. So I think that's something that maybe pay attention to. For real estate, for the real estate company, it's another, to us, it's a tokenization platform. So it's hard to make the differentiation. So the question is that I would suggest, what are the market that you're focusing on? Are you focusing on commercial building? You're focusing on consumer, residents, or maybe what type of real estate market that you're focusing on? That's potentially would be driving your differentiation, because like the speakers mentioned, there are many platforms that are out there, and then we haven't seen a lot of successes. Then the question that begs is like, how are you different than the other platform? It could be from a technology point of view, it could be from a market focus. And I want to comment one thing that I think is good, that I saw AML, anti-money laundering, as part of your pitch. That's good. In fact, I want to talk to you about this, maybe after the call. I'd like to see how you do that, because that's actually important. So I want to see potentially, is it going to be why your AML is better in this particular focus? And can your technology, you have any protective pattern around it where it allows you to say, this is actually something where, that will differentiate us. It's not only just on the real estate market, potentially for other market, and that actually could be immediately become much more interesting. As Tess mentioned, one thing is that the regulator, the red tag, the regulator compliances, sort of like landscape right now is of utmost importance. So, and that's my personal interest, or our fund interest, that we want to look at anything that is compliance, risk management, regulation, and all that, in terms of how we apply AI towards those applications. So that's some of the second feedback. For the last one, again, is a crypto wallet platform, Too Local. I applaud your vision of creating a more sustainable economy, creating a opportunity for solving some of the macroeconomic issues, especially very relevant for what we're doing right now. But at the same time, I like to see more practical applications towards what you're dealing with right now. I think one thing that that are very critical right now is that we have this kind of inequality that are coming out from the the government subsidy or the PPP loan towards all these different, entities here. And then actually, while there's a inequality where you hear like all this, some well-financed, well-capitalized companies such as Roof Chris Steakhouse are getting 20 million, where all the people, the people on the main street, people who run the local bars and restaurants, they're not able to get that money. How are you going to solve some of these issues? I think that will be immediately very relevant, especially when you talk about, the whole COVID-19. It's a problem that I'm more familiar with the US side. I don't know how it's applied to the European and all these other countries. But if you actually kind of cite some examples, how you solve some of these problems, I think that will be very helpful. So with that, I pause, and I think everybody, just to give kudos to everybody. Everybody, of course, this is tough time right now. Everybody do their pitch. I hope that at least I give you some advices that allows you to kind of like navigate towards this challenging environment. Hopefully, I think all you guys are going to come through successfully behind this, and you'll be, because your ultimate goal, I can see all of you're trying to address the problems right now, as opposed to say try to figure out how to get the your company become a unicorn and all that. I think this is more important, and we place a high value on those inspiration and aspirations. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Darwin. I'd like to ask Tilo Bonow to be the next one.
Yes, Kevin, Jonathan, Anthony, thank you very much for the presentations. I think to keep it short, just keep in mind that in these pitch situations, it's just a couple of minutes that you have, right? And you show us PowerPoint slides with so much text and information and everything. I mean, I think I can speak for all of us. Nobody could really go through all these details, and that's really not the way it works, honestly, and not on stage, not virtually, and that's very, very hard to understand all the detail. And I think what Darwin said correctly, you have really to work, all three of you, on your storyline to make it really clear in the short amount of time and the short situation that we have, what is the problem that we are solving, and make it very clear with a couple of words or infographics and pictures what actually you do and what your company is all about, especially in these times where the market, so many companies looking for money, and there are so many also similar business models out there, and so many amazing teams. It is so mission critical for you. That's why I think for me it doesn't make sense not to echo what already been said about your business model, etc. But I think it's really mission critical to think about your storyline, how you present yourself, how you differentiate yourself, also about the why you specifically, as there are so many similar business models and companies around all of three of you. I think from the three of you, I think Jonathan, your company stood out to me, and I think it's really a topic that's really important. As around the world, these real estate markets is really a mess when it comes to buying, investing into it. I mean, I'm here from Germany. I just recently made an investment in a project that was tokenized. So it's really something, a market that is ready for disruption, but also heavily under regulation. But guys, really all three of you, as I know you are super smart and you have amazing companies and really want to change something, but you will not change the world when you're not clear about your story, your why, your presentation. I think that's really there's value in for it, to investing in it, and both in the presentation, but especially also how you present it and how you make sure that investors, I mean, just go along with the 5 T's that I always tell to my portfolio companies, right? First of all, the team, right, who's really behind it, and why is it the team that really changes something? And secondly, also the technology, right? What is really in the technology different? The timing, why now, right? That's also sometimes, okay, why is it really, especially now in times of crisis, is it, right? But also your traction, right? What you have already achieved. I mean, all of you already in business and operating And last but not least, of course, it's very important when you look at all together the team, the technology, the traction, but also the territory, the fifth T. So is it really a global business, or you have identified a certain market where, for example, in the real estate business, you want to tackle first because there's the issue the largest, etc. I think the 5 T's, when you think about this logic and build your presentation, your storyline alongside it, then you really will win in the future when you present to investors and go to your roadshow, because these are the 5 topics that are often most important. So thank you very much. It was definitely very impressive and very insightful, but I think there is still a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah, Elena, Tilo, if I can just give an example, because I really agree with what Tilo just said as well as the others, but if I'm Metro Vacasa, if I was pitching that, and I don't know anything about your business, I would take what Tilo just said, and I would say something like, thank you for your time today. At Metro Vacasa, we are not just another tokenization platform, but we do tokenize assets. Over the next couple minutes, I'm going to show you how we're going to go to market and capture an aggressive amount of immediately available deal flow while we continue to compound that growth and carve out our segment of the global tokenization market over the next couple of years. I'd hit the team, but I'd say, first out of the gate is we've built this with Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton has X amount of clients that feed us proprietary deal flow that no one else has. Boom, like take away the objections by going from the ground up and build that narrative where I'm not trying to make sense of how you're going to get any percentage of the market share. I'm understanding that you've got immediately $500 million, $1 billion worth of assets ready to be tokenized that no one else can have access to, and that you have an audience for, and all you're doing is give them a better way to buy it, a better way to resell it if things change. And so I think to Tilo's point, like, tell us a story that shows us how easy it is to get into business with you and what's proprietary about doing that, and make us your customer, act as if we're the user. We're either going to believe that narrative or not. But if I believe you can talk to someone who has a $5 to $10 million check about why they should buy real estate right now, wherever the heck it is, through your model, then I can believe you have a business. If I can't see that, I can't believe you have a business. So I like what Tilo said.
And in the best possible way, make a very concrete example, especially Jonathan and Anthony in your businesses. You can really build this entire story along into a concrete project and to a concrete customer and make it very, very to the point. I think, especially for Jonathan and Anthony, for your business models, it's so easy actually to go alongside a story of a customer or make a case. So would be a pity if your companies didn't succeed because of your storytelling ability.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. Yeah, definitely, I believe that the tight point is the time constraint. No, but definitely, if reducing information, probably it will be easier. Yeah, thanks for your comments.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask Ashton Edison to please join us. Ashton, could you share your feedback?
Yes, thank you very much, Elena. Thank you, speakers. I'll be brief. Chris, Tilo, a lot of good information so far. So for World Free, I think the thing that stood out to me and is a differentiator is the stablecoin is pegged to 20 commodities. It seems like that was something unique that was put out in the presentation, which I'd like to know more about. I'd like to understand, is that part of the major competitive advantage or a differentiator between why this coin is better than other stablecoins? And if not, is it connections to exchanges and building adoption that will give you a competitive advantage, or what is the competitive advantage, especially in this time where there are many stable coins and many big companies are coming out with stable coins, like USDC, Gemini, Stably. So there is a lot of competition. How are you going to beat those out? I did like that you touched on the return and investment, but what I would have liked to see more out of that is a more clear description on the revenue generation model. It's always been a little confusing for stable coins, on how is a stable coin, how do you make money off investing in a stable coin? Clearly, is it just holding and retaining that value, or is there actual appreciation? And why don't we just invest in Bitcoin or invest in Tether instead? And I guess the roadmap to adoption, getting exchanges users would have been great, but overall, I think there's a great foundation there. Jonathan, on Metro Vasica, sounds like a great project. You know, I've interviewed a lot of real estate companies integrating blockchain on the Crypto Coin Show. I think it would be interesting to see, you know, on your competitor slide, it showed the traditional competitors and other blockchain competitors. And you touched on, you know, many of the blockchain competitors are new or they're considered as third parties. And maybe they aren't exactly having expertise in real estate. I would have liked to hear a little bit more on your project and yourself. You know, are your team real estate investors or realtors in the past, and that team gives you a competitive advantage, a little bit more on the team, and you know, how is your system a little bit different than the third parties, and as well just the margins. And but I think Chris touched on it well with the Grant Thornton connection, just really emphasizing that you have that competitive advantage. If that's going to bring deal flow, that's going to be a major focal point of the presentation. So great work on that. Anthony from Too Local. I think I like the idea of Too Local. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more on why is the local part a competitive advantage, you know, and because really that's what the name's based off of. It seemed very, the diagrams in terms of how the cashback system in the wallet work could have been a little bit more simple to understand. I know it's very hard to explain in 2 minutes, but I'd like to see, you know, what is the competitive advantage, especially a little bit more on the marketplace, you know, interacting with locals in a marketplace. I wanted to understand a little bit more about that business model and how that provides a competitive advantage. And then, you know, yeah, more on that on the business model and less on, you know, how is the coin specifically going to rise, but what is the underlying value creation for Too Local that, you know, if we were just investing in the equity of that business, how would that generate wealth long-term for the investors? And just more about the sustainability. But overall, great presentation from all three speakers. And thank you so much for getting that done in 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ashton. I'd like to ask Ellie and Zari to please add your comments.
Thank you, Elena. Guys, thank you. It was amazing. You guys did a really good job, and 5 minutes is very hard. So, kudos to you guys. And as it was mentioned before, that the builders of today are going to be the masters of tomorrow. So you just got to keep building it. So the feedback that I'll give, I'll start off at a global level. General feedback for all three companies, and this is really how we look at companies, both as investment bankers and as investors, representing institutional investors, family offices, and a whole variety of investors worldwide. I think the problems you're tackling are problems that have been addressed and have been tackled for years now. Right, so the tokenization, real estate, stablecoin, that has been going on for years and years, especially in the market where it's getting very hard to raise money unless you are really building something novel in this the new normal, as we call it. So you have to really look at the business. Blockchain should be a background plumbing, right? Not the main attraction. So what is really the actual business? And how do you quantify the value you bring in to solve the problem, right? Forget about blockchain, forget about everything else. What is the problem you're solving, and why are you able to solve it better than anybody else, number one? And number two, how do you quantify it? And if you're able to quantify it, you start off with that narrative in terms of this is the problem, you frame the problem, and then you really bring in the quantitative aspect of it. This is why you're able to do it so much better, because you have background plumbing, you have better team, you have Grant Thornton, and really work with that narrative. The other thing is, you have to be careful in terms of when you mention a name like Grant Thornton, it's a very big name. You have to quantify what does that connection mean. Right, so you don't want to, not that you were, but you want to really quantify, we have an agreement for distribution, or we have an MOU, because if I'm listening and I just like everybody here on the Zoom call, we all hear a lot of pitches, right? And there is a lot of fluff, right? And people try to create associations that never exist. So you have to really, and if you have a great agreement or you have a great partnership with Grant Thornton, that you're the exclusive provider of blockchain technologies to them, or whatever the agreement is, you have to really, make sure that you mention that. And I think the other broader aspect of it is, go after the problems. Not that you should change your model, but this is more of a general thing in terms of, framing the problem. What are the problems you're solving in this new paradigm, and then kind of go with that in this current market environment. But overall, this thing is going to get pretty tough from a funding perspective. So you have to really draw the parallels to the current market. So, but great job, guys. Keep it up.
Thank you, Ali. I'd like to ask Tess Howe to please join us.
Yes, hi. Thank you. I think, great job to the three founders and, entrepreneurs. 5 minutes is very tough to try to get your value proposition across. And, excellent feedback from all the judges and on the panel. So obviously I will try not touch on the points that the other judges have mentioned already. Very solid feedback. I'll add to that in this current situation where funding is more difficult to access, but not impossible, it is even more so important, again, to, in these 5 minutes, emphasize a little bit about, any extra, superpowers that the co-founding team has to access capital, or who your advisors are, or kind of how you're thinking about that. I emphasize that is, as an investor, especially at such an early stage, it is important. We think about returns. We think about how to de-risk, how this potential opportunity will hit those metrics. Having said that, I think even though there's only 5 minutes, because that is actually even more than a typical elevator pitch, where if you meet an investor or if someone introduces it, that first meeting, unless it's set up formally, it truly is a few minutes. So you need to boil down everything very quickly. Having said that, the very important point I personally feel is, after you share, the feedback of, largely what the other judges have mentioned, you do need to touch on how much funding have you raised currently, and very clearly share what you are raising now. I know that, some of us did this, in the pitch today, but for, the teams that didn't, I think it's important that that comes across right away. Otherwise, as an investor, we don't know how to size up this opportunity. And even if that opportunity is not relevant to myself, I would be able to share it with others. And that's the same when you share, your opportunity with anyone, because anyone could be a potential investor, or they may know someone. So it's a sorting game where you're trying to figure out who are the audience, who is the specific individual or group that you should speak with, and you have to ask for help. So I would say, take this chance with every pitching chance to emphasize exactly what stage you are at in terms of not just, the product, the tech, or the stage of the vision, is to emphasize, kind of where you are in terms of how much money raised and what is it that you are raising right now. Otherwise, we won't even know how to think about this opportunity or who to direct this opportunity to. The next very important point is, for me, especially investing in early stage, I invest in pre-seed stage, seed stage, post-seed, pre-A, largely because of the founding team. And the founding team consists of, also the advisory board of it. So knowing if there is someone who also is going to help you do some of the heavy lifting that is, outside of the existing team is important. Because why? The team is focused on execution, and they should be delivering the technology, the product, and everything else, that is like very difficult as entrepreneurs. But, the reward of it is excellent. That's why we're all doing this. I come from an entrepreneur background, but also knowing that I need to understand how investors think. That's why I started investing and starting my own fund. So that's why I think you have to make sure you emphasize who the other people that are helping you with capital raising or with partnership that is not, on the core team. And the reason for that is investors need to de-risk. Investors need to know, is there someone else who is helping you, push the company along, champion it? And also, they most likely will help introduce and bring on the founders, help them bring on the next round of funding. Because the biggest worry for early stage investor is, will this be the only round? So therefore, they hesitate to invest unless they find, the in their world, the perfect team. But there's no such thing as perfect except de-risk. And how do you de-risk is to make sure you have, those various aspects that the other judges on the panel spoke about and what I emphasize, because the founding team is the core, because all of you guys have great visions. It is hard in 5 minutes to emphasize what is the technology, how you have your differentiator, how you have your barrier to entry from others to compete directly or indirectly. Therefore, I feel in a 5-minute pitch, it is important to also emphasize, your own domain expertise and your capability of bringing in the other, let's just call it the Avengers that's going to complement you. Because, self-awareness is right from the start the most important aspect that early stage investors look at. And knowing that you have your strengths, but what your weaknesses are, you address that by bringing other complementary, people in, and that's your advisory board. So I can't emphasize that enough. The next point is, that I can touch on briefly is product market fit. So I think it's important. I think everyone did a great job in emphasizing the vision, and some of you guys touched on a little bit of the tech, but what is the product? Because it's okay to have technology. That's, the start. And it's very important to have vision because that's going to carry you through. But you have to emphasize, what is the actual product, the go-to-market strategy, how close you are to that, what cycle, what stage, what timeline. And the third point that is critically important is to touch a little bit on the exit strategy. I know it's like far off from where you are right now. However, it is important, especially in this, current, situation in the market, is investors cannot afford to invest so much in ideas or in, impact investing. Everyone only has so much, resources now, and coming up, the market may even be more challenging. So therefore, being able to truly articulate what the potential exit strategy is, like a best case or base case, or kind of how you're thinking about that, will demonstrate to investors that you have thought about that. You may pivot, you may, change course along the way, but you know how to map that in, because otherwise investors are just investing into a company where at this stage, it's a great idea, but it's even harder to think about who the other investors are coming on, next round to support you, or, in this case, what retailers or other people that's going to be, investing, and then thinking about the liquidity event, right? So, for tokenization, obviously it's, a clear, exit, strategy, but, for those who also have the ability to, raise on equity, or, if it's, an STO kind of arrangement, there are other components that fit to what I just shared that you should emphasize, even though it's a 5-minute pitch, because that's all the face time that you get with this audience and the other people that's, watching this and viewing it, because, LA Token is a great platform. So that's why I think those are what I want to leave you guys with. But excellent job. 5 minutes is tough, but I think you guys definitely did, a great job in that 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Tess. It was very informative. Thank you. Carl Hasselbarth, could you share your feedback with us?
Sure. Thank you, Elena. My comment is an overall observation of the market, and it's for each of the presenters generally, as opposed to anyone in particular. Obviously, the government-sponsored fiat currencies leave a lot to be desired, but for a lot of us, it's still the devil that you know, which is often preferred over the devil that you don't know, which are these cryptocurrencies. And I see the main objections to them is that they don't quite have the protections against market manipulation and fraud and other forms of malfeasance that the government-sponsored currencies do. And, as one person put it that I heard once, is that, everybody's an anarchist until they get hacked or their money gets stolen. So in any of these kind of presentations, that's kind of what I would be looking for as an investor, because I think that's what cryptocurrencies are going to have to do in order to really get over that hump and be adopted in a way that seriously competes with the government-sponsored currencies. And obviously the US dollar is, the biggest player of all that. So it may be unwise to try to compete with the US dollar at the outset. If you can find toeholds in countries where their government-sponsored currencies are much weaker, they're poorly managed, that market manipulation is kind of running rampant, it's going to be much easier to demonstrate that cryptocurrencies really can displace the government currencies. And then once you establish some success there, move on to the countries with the better government currencies. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Carl. And we have our next judge, Gary. Gary, we don't hear you.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's getting quite late here. It's almost like one hour in the morning. But I think usually my directors try to develop some projects for me, but today I try to stay throughout the whole section. Thank you for all the speakers. I think both of you, three of you are very wonderful. I think my comments on some of my views about the presentation. I don't want to talk about the nitty-gritty about how well or how badly you present. I think the key is that I love the themes of all your three projects. The first one is like tokenized commodity, in short. Second, it's like tokenized property. And the third is what I believe is like the holy grail of the application of the blockchain. Is something like what I mentioned earlier, something like the gold standard type of cryptocurrency, etc. I will not comment on how you present or whatever. I think basically for all the presentations, or even whether short or long presentations that I came across in the boardroom or outside the boardroom, to be fair, you just have 5 minutes. You're not Superman, okay? The key is that you have to get the one and only single message and the theme across to all the panelists and judges. In that respect, I will urge all three of you to be more confident. You are the expert in your area. Nobody knows better than you do, even all the panelists, right? Forget about all the panelists, even myself. For the commodities, tokenized commodity, and also, for the tokenized property themes. I think these two themes, of course, although it's not new in the market, but I think they are also good themes. And of course, if you really want to get investment from investor, you really have to bring across what is in it for me or the corporation or as an investor into your project. Don't keep telling me, okay, I need what kind of capital you're asking for, what are the share you're leaving that. Forget about all this. You have to really punch, your punch line to the investor. And for that, I need to hear more about, And in fact, for the third project, the Too Local, although all three themes are equally good and also equally appealing, but for me, from my personal, also corporate point of view, the third one, Too Local, has much more appeal to me. The reason is not about the presenter, although, to be very honest, all three of you, I kind of like presentation skills, whatever. I don't comment on that because you just have 5 minutes, right? To be fair. But all three themes are equally good, equally great. But as I also, during my initial discussion, pre your presentations, I mentioned about, the world needs a kind of currency that is credible, that is for the 1.7 billion unbanked, for the poverty, for the underprivileged, right? There's some keywords, some punchlines. And of course, surprisingly, I see the gentleman, although I forgot your name, Anthony, right? Yeah, Anthony, yeah, I see, you really hit me. I mean, for me, as a 27-year banker and investor, and I'm running a multi-billion US dollars asset ownership group, Swiss Capital Group. We have been evaluating projects every day, every hour, every minute. So I gave you three last, because it's getting late, I give you my last three suggestions. I think first of all, I am open, and I'm equally open to personally peruse each of your three plans for me and also for my directors. Okay, this is my promise. I give you a chance because everybody deserves a chance, okay? Second is that, but equally, I would like to know more about, what is the winning factor? What is, I mean, the keyword is, what is in it for me, right? Whether it's my personal investment, you talk about millions, right? I can invest myself. You're not talking about tens of millions or hundreds of millions, right? All three themes are good, are great. In fact, I can say great because just within 5 minutes, come on, all of you are great guys. You're really presenting the best you can already. For me, I may not be as good as you, for all the three of you. So good for you, three of you. So this the second point I want to know. I want to make is while you're coming back to your plans to me personally or to our board, I hope that you really have to read between the lines. You really have to think carefully what is in it for you, for your particular theme, for your particular project. Forget about the financials first. What are you doing for the world? What are you doing for the 6 billion people in this planet? Say, one thing that I'm happy with Anthony is that he did mention some figures, like 1.7 billion people. He wants to solve a problem for the 1.7 billion unbanked. It is a world problem. It is humanitarian. This is something that we should all be embracing our theme. Some of the panelists mentioned about, it's not about technology. It's not just about the blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is just a tool, or it's just a weapon, or it's just a pathway to enable the application in different industries or different sectors, or apply it in different humanitarian programs or humanitarian activities. So this is something that is cool. So the third thing I want to give some remarks is it's about the financial thing, about the financial. As always, I mean, for me, of course, I'm not 100% agreeable with some of the panelists, but I just share with you my own view. Whether you ask for just $10,000, $1 million, $10 million, or even $100 million, to me, it doesn't make any difference. If you're a good project, if you really bring across the theme through the application, the holy grail of the application of the blockchain technology into your particular theme, whether it's a tokenized commodity, whether it's tokenized property, whether it's the currency, I think the same. You really have to, you really have to convince the investor, or like myself or the panelists, what is in it for us or for me of doing that. For me, as a 27-year banker investor, usually the numbers come the last. If I'm being convinced, even if you just ask for 1 billion, don't worry, I can give you 5 or 10 billion. And I will try to scrutinize myself instead of me as a so-called judges or speaker, try to scrutinize you guys. No, I will try to scrutinize myself and the corporation. What we can help you guys. It's not just about the capital. It's about the people. It's about other type of resources. So while I'm listening to all three presentations, all are great, and so that's why I give you this free, advice for all three of you, coming back, and I will have an open mind, an open heart, to really let the team to really peruse the the crystal and the gem about what is really in your project. And the last 3 comments that I mentioned, that you have to really have to think seriously about that. And I think good luck to all of you. I believe that this is something that you have done a great job. And I think thanks LA Token, and also Elena, and also Valentino, etc., and also panelists. So this is my 2 cents for all 3 of you. Good luck for all of you. Good for all of you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I received this scores from all the judges, and I can say that we have a clear winner, and this is Jonathan Ruiz Gomez from MVC. Congratulations, Jonathan.
Thank you very much to all of you guys. Thanks a lot. And also for the comments. I will take them into consideration to improve, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks to all our speakers and judges. Thanks to all our projects. And we have to finish because we have the next online event scheduled in 4 minutes. Thanks to our online audience. Thank you very much. Stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.